After Song Jue was reborn, she still wanted to marry me in an arranged union, just like in her past life. She was certain I would marry her. After all, we'd been married for 8 years in our last life. I'd loved her deeply, doted on her like she was something precious. But in this life I want no part of it. Because in the 7th year of our marriage she cheated on me, with her young assistant. Song Jue stared at me in disbelief. Zhou Linchuan, you loved me so much. How could you not want to? I was speechless. What an idiot. She never stopped to wonder, how did she and her lover end up dead so young, when everything was going so well for them? It was me. When I opened my eyes, I realized I'd been reborn, back to when I was 26 years old. Staring at my young reflection in the mirror, I felt dazed for a moment. In my last life I lived to be over 100. I was surrounded by children and grandchildren, lived a life of ease. I died with no regrets. Everything had gone smoothly my whole life. There was just one thing. My first wife had died young. She'd passed away right after her 32nd birthday. Everyone felt sorry for me. They said even though we never had children, we'd spent 8 years together, deeply in love, the kind of couple everyone in our circle envied. Ha! A mocking smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Just then the butler came to find me. Young master, the old master wants you downstairs. Miss Song is here to see you. Miss Song? Oh! Song Jue. Had she come to the house on this exact day in my last life too? I couldn't remember anymore. As I walked downstairs I saw Song Jue sitting on the sofa, perfectly made up, chatting and laughing with my father. Seeing the young Song Jue again I felt completely calm. She was strikingly beautiful, almond-shaped eyes, a high nose bridge, bold and striking features. A lot of people said her looks and figure could rival any celebrities. In my last life, I'd fallen for her at first sight. So when she proposed an arranged marriage, I'd said yes right away. After we married she told me she'd fallen for me at first sight too. Song Jue was bold. She came straight to the point with my father, telling him exactly what she wanted. She wanted to marry me. My father had met her a few times for business and thought highly of her. He knew I'd liked her too, so he didn't turn her down. He just smiled and said, I have no objections myself, but we'll have to hear what Lin Chuan thinks. My footsteps caught their attention. My father waved me over. Lin Chuan, you heard what Miss Song said. It's your decision. My father had always doted on me. He always asked for my opinion on everything, let me make my own choices. I looked at Song Jue. She was wearing a white couture suit today, sharp and capable, yet soft and gentle at the same time. When she saw me looking, she gave a soft, warm smile, utterly charming. I said flatly, I don't want to. The smile froze on Song Jue's face at once. She stared at me, stunned. My father's eyes widened slightly. He looked at me, then at Song Jue. To smooth things over, he smiled and said, Don't take it to heart, Miss Song. My son has always said he's in no hurry to marry. I thought he might have changed his mind. These things happen when they're meant to. Think of it as making a new friend. You can get to know each other better down the line. I'd thought that with her pride she'd leave gracefully after such a blunt refusal. But instead, she shot to her feet and pressed on. Why won't you marry me? She even grabbed my wrist, losing her composure. I truly want to marry you. I narrowed my eyes. Something was off. In this timeline we'd only met a handful of times. There was no feeling between us. She wouldn't lose her cool just over a rejected marriage proposal. A thought crossed my mind. Song Jue was just like me. She'd been reborn too. I pried her fingers off my wrist one by one, and stepped back to put distance between us. Just because you want to marry me doesn't mean I have to marry you. You want this. I don't. It's that simple. Song Jue's eyes glistened. She stepped back, disbelieving. Lin Chuan, no. It shouldn't be like this. You felt so strongly about me. You felt what about you? I cut her off with a cold laugh, my voice distant. Miss Song, we barely know each other. Please call me young Master Zhou from now on. Song Jue snapped back to her senses. She gave me a long, hard look, then composed herself. I apologize, young Master Zhou. I lost my composure just now. I have somewhere to be. I won't take up any more of your time. She bowed slightly to my father, turned and walked away, looking utterly defeated. My father sipped his tea slowly, puzzled. Lin Xuan, I thought you liked her. Why do you seem to dislike her all of a sudden? I shook my head. That was all in the past. In our last life, we'd liked each other, and the arranged marriage had gone smoothly. The first few years had been happy, like newlyweds. Even later, when she started showing up to banquets with her lover right out in the open, I'd found out and never confronted her about it. She'd thought I loved her so much I'd put up with anything, that I'd turn a blind eye even to her cheating. That's why she was so confident after being reborn. She'd thought I'd marry her just like I had before. But I didn't want to. True, after I found out about her affair in my last life, I'd quietly taken care of her and her lover, and absorbed the song group into my own. But she was still tainted. I don't want tainted women. My father sighed. Song Jue is actually very capable. She's far better at business than her brother. I thought you two would make a good match. In our last life he'd been very happy with her as his daughter-in-law. He'd even helped her when she fought for control of the Song family business. But unfortunately, once she had power, she'd thought she was above it all, and cheated. I knew exactly what my father was thinking. He still wanted to set us up. So I had to put an end to that idea for good. Dad, there's more to Song Jue than meets the eye. I'm going to have someone look into her. I just realized she'd come to see me half a month earlier than she had in my last life. My father nodded and said nothing more. A few days later, I showed my father the investigation results. He read them and turned livid with anger. Just as I'd suspected, Song Jue must have been reborn earlier than me. And as soon as she was, she'd tracked down her lover from her last life, Jiang Hang, who was still in college, and started keeping him. What does Song Jue think the Zhou family is? My father was furious. So young, not even married yet, and she's already keeping a lover? Shameless, she wanted to marry you? She doesn't deserve you. Of course she didn't deserve me. I wanted to see how she'd seize power from her brother and become the head of the Song family, without the Zhou family backing her this time. After that, I threw myself entirely into making money. Meetings, reports, overseeing projects, my efficiency was terrifying. The numbers in my bank account kept climbing, faster and faster. One day while I was working, there was a knock at my office door. My secretary walked in, followed by a beautiful young woman. Sir, this is Xia Runrun. She graduated from university as she's your new assistant. I glanced up at her. Xia Runrun stood there quietly, her eyes downcast. She had fair skin and big dewy eyes that looked innocent. She was exactly the sweet, pure girl next door type so many people liked. Something stirred in my chest. How long had it been since I'd seen her? Over 30 years probably. I told the secretary to leave. When I just kept looking at her without saying anything, Xia Runrun glanced up cautiously and met my eyes. I smiled and asked, "Have we met before?" At that her eyes lit up with excitement. Her cheeks flushed pink as she said yes. She'd been one of the students I'd sponsored. Once when I'd visited her university for a business partnership. She'd been the event MC. That was the one time we'd met. She'd had a crush on me. After graduation, she'd come to work at my company as my secretary. And she'd worked diligently her whole life, making things so much easier for me. I pulled myself out of my thoughts and said to her, "Xia Runrun, I know who you are. Will you stay by my side?" Xia Runrun's eyes went wide. Her lips parted slightly. I looked into her surprised eyes and said seriously, "Exactly what you're thinking. Will you?" Her whole body trembled. Her face turned bright red all the way down to her neck. Those deer-like eyes of hers locked onto me and she nodded firmly. Yes. In my last life, as soon as she'd heard Song Jue was dead, she'd confessed her feelings to me. She said she knew she wasn't worthy to marry into the Zhou family, but she just wanted to be with me. She told me if I hadn't sponsored her starting in high school, her family would have made her drop out and get married. I was the person who'd changed her life. But later, she'd also told me she'd liked me from the first moment she saw me. Even if I'd never sponsored her, she still would have fallen for me. Sadly, in my last life, she'd only stayed by my side until she was 80. She'd passed away from illness. I'd only been testing her just now, and she'd said yes without a second of hesitation. She wasn't lying to me. Just then there was another knock at the door. The secretary came in and said, "Sir, Miss Song is here to see you." I frowned. "I'm not seeing her." I'd almost forgotten about Song Jue entirely. I'd turned her down so clearly already. What was she doing here? The secretary looked hesitant. "Sir," Miss Song said, "as soon as you hear this name, you'll agree to see her." I said impatiently, "Who?" "Yang Hang." I froze. Oh, so she's desperate now. This I had to see just how miserable she looked. Of course I was also curious why she'd bring up Jang Hang on her own. The man she'd called her one true love later on. She'd even secretly transferred all her assets to him back then. When Song Jue walked in, she looked anxious. But mostly she looked confused. "Lin Chuan." "Young Master Zhou. Did you turn down the marriage because of Jang Heng?" I raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" After coming back to life, the second I found out she was keeping her old lover, I made sure everyone knew about it. A wealthy young lady keeping a college boy as a plaything? The story was juicy enough to spread like wildfire both inside and outside elite circles. She was famous now, for all the wrong reasons. I'd heard her father had flown into a rage when he found out and even slapped her across the face. Thanks to the scandal, no other wealthy family wanted a marriage alliance with her anymore. Her reputation had plummeted completely. Song Jue spoke urgently. "You liked me once. If you're suddenly turning me down, it must be because of Jiang Hang. But I can explain everything about him." She said, "Jiang Hang and I aren't what people are saying. We're not what you think either." I just felt bad for him. So I let him stay in one of my villas. I've always seen him as nothing more than a little brother. She watched my expression carefully, looking perfectly innocent, and went on. "He's incredibly talented. He'll be an exceptional asset one day. Taking him in is just me grooming future talent for the company. That's all." Her eyes burned into mine, warm and earnest. "Young Master Jo, I really do like you." I laughed. Did Song Jue think I was an idiot? The Zhou family was far more powerful than the Song family. I was the rightful heir to the Zhou Empire while she was just a manager at Song Corporation right now. What made her think I'd believe her claim that nothing was going on between her and Jiang Hang? That I'd just overlook it all? She was far too confident. I smiled coldly. "Do you even believe a word you're saying?" A flicker of embarrassment crossed Song Jiwe's face, but she must have remembered she needed something from me. She forced herself to keep explaining. "Young Master Zhou, I'm not lying to you. If you really can't stand it, I can send Jiang Hang away." "Would that work?" Her tone was earnest, edged with reluctant compromise. I lifted my eyes to her, each word sharp and icy. "No need. I still don't want to." Anger flared in Song Jue's eyes. Her voice rose without her noticing. "Zhou Linxuan, I've already come this far. Why do you have to make this so hard for me?" It probably never crossed her mind that I, who'd always indulged her so completely, would turn her down so flatly. In her last life, right up until she died, she'd thought I was head over heels for her. Once her little lover had even deliberately showed up to humiliate me in person, and I'd said nothing at the time. I'd just seen to it that he met his maker quietly, not long after. I stared her down, cold and unyielding. "From start to finish this has all been one-sided. You're the one who wants to marry me, who wants this alliance." A mocking smile tugged at my lips. "I never once agreed to marry you." Song Jiwe's face darkened completely. "Zhou Linchuan, how did you become like this? You never used to treat me this way." There was nothing but disappointment in her eyes, her voice thick with accusation. "Jiang Hang is just a boy I look out for, nothing more. And you can't even tolerate that? How did you get so petty? I really did have you wrong. I'd been far too lenient with her, I thought. That's why she dared speak to me like this. She probably thought if she just apologized and backed down a little, I'd forgive her like always. And she'd go right back to being the high and mighty Song family daughter, the future head of the Song clan. In her dreams." I stood up, strode over to her and raised my hand. A hard, sharp slap landed across her face. Smack! The crisp sound echoed through the quiet office. I'd hit her hard enough to snap her head to the side. 5 bright red finger marks bloomed instantly across her perfect cheek. She froze, completely still. Song Jue's eyes went wide with shock, humiliation, and disbelief. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me at all. I looked down at her coldly, my voice like shards of ice. Song Jue, do you think I've been indulging you? Know your place. What right do you have to bargain with me? Song Jue's mouth fell open, but not a single sound came out. I scoffed, my tone thick with open contempt. Save your breath and worry about your own situation. Do you really think you still have a foothold in the Song family? Watching all the color drain from her face, I went on coldly. The Song family is tearing itself apart with infighting right now. Do you even have a shot at the power struggle? Once your older brother takes over and has full control, do you think he'll let you stick around? The sister who lost the fight? Without me, she'd never defeat her brother like she did in her last life. Not a chance. That hit her right where it hurt. Her whole body trembled. Every trace of color vanished from her face. Just then a sweet voice cut in. Sir, I made these cookies myself. Would you like to try one? Xia Renrun walked in holding a delicate little box, looking shy and tentative. I smiled and nodded. Sure. Song Jue's brow furrowed instinctively. Her eyes darted back and forth between me and Xia Renrun, suspicious. Then she flew into a rage. Zhou Linxuan, is that why you turned me down? Because of her? How could you betray me? You player, smack, smack. I slapped her twice more. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to question me? Song Jiwei's cheeks were swollen now. Her lips trembled and her eyes slowly reddened. Zhou Linxuan, you're also. From the look on her face, I knew she'd figured it out. She'd guessed I was reborn too. But I had nothing more to say to her. I called security in. Song Jue was dragged out by the guards, a total mess. Her face was puffy, her hair falling loose. She kept screaming husband at me, demanding an explanation. What bad luck. I hadn't spared her in the last life. In this one she was less than nothing to me. The huge CEO office was left with just me and Xia Renrun. She stood by the desk, her slim figure hunched slightly. After a long moment she lifted her eyes to me, tentative and careful. Sir, did you take me in? Let me stay by your side just to make Miss Song jealous? Looking at her dejected expression, I tossed the question back casually. What if I did? Tears welled up in Xia Renrun's clear eyes. She looked hurt. But she forced a small smile anyway. That's okay. If that's how it is. As long as I can help you, then I'm useful. Really? I don't mind at all. I just want to stay by your side. That's enough. I thought to myself that she was putting on a classic innocent act. Saying she didn't mind but looking so pitiful you couldn't help but feel bad for her. Still, this version of her was much cuter than the sharp, ruthless President Xia she'd become later in my last life. I tapped the tip of her nose gently, my voice serious. No, she's nothing compared to you. Even if she'd never existed, I still would have chosen you. Xia Renrun's eyes lit up at once. She smiled, her eyes crinkling. I guess I was just lucky to meet you. Then she asked, curious, will you marry someone else for an alliance then? I thought of her on her deathbed, holding my hand, making me promise to wait for her in the next life, and the one after that. I'd promised. I stroked her hair. No. The Zhou family was powerful enough on its own. We didn't need marriage alliances to stay on top. I just hoped in this life she'd stay by my side a lot longer. Near the end of the workday, my secretary came in carrying an ornate little box. Sir, Miss Song sent this over. She said it was her mother's, and that I had to make sure you got it. I knew what was inside, a jade bracelet. In my last life, Song Jue had worn it every day. Then later I'd seen it on Jiang Hang's wrist. By then I already knew about their affair. I'd had everything ready, and he'd come right to my face to taunt me. So I'd made sure both of them ended up in the crematorium, one after another. Song Jue suspected I was reborn, and she still dared send this to get under my skin. Being reborn really did thicken a person's skin, huh? I kept the box. It was worth a lot. I planned to sell it and donate the money. At the same time, I had someone prepare a charity donation certificate and 250 yuan, to send back to Song Jue. It would make my position perfectly clear, and I'd get to do a little good in the process. What I didn't expect was that Song Jue wouldn't give up. She started hounding me relentlessly. She'd always been proud, never one to bow to anyone. But this life wasn't going her way. She might even be disowned by her family soon. Of course she'd cling to me, her only lifeline. She kept sending gifts, kept asking to meet. I refused every gift. I never agreed to see her. She tried showing up at my house and my office, but I always had bodyguards around. She couldn't even get close. I found out the Song family was furious with her over the scandal, and the damage it had done to the company's reputation. They'd already barred her from all core business. Everyone in elite circles was talking about it. Everyone knew the only reason she was clinging to me was for the Zhou family's power and influence. Some people said that while plenty of couples had their own arrangements after marriage, she was the first one to get caught keeping a lover before the wedding even happened. She'd never been good enough for me to begin with. Now her reputation was ruined. She'd never marry into the Zhou family. I knew even without me lifting a finger, Song Jiwei's life was only going to get worse from here. Half a month later, at a gala for the city's business elite, I saw Song Jiwei. You could tell she'd dressed up carefully, but it couldn't hide how tired and worn out she looked. She wore a striking red dress that stood out in the crowd, a polite smile on her face as she chatted with the people around her. The second Song Jiwei saw me, her eyes lit up, but when she spotted Xiaoran on my arm, her face fell instantly. Even the way she looked at me changed, shock, disbelief, and a flicker of barely concealed anger. She marched over to us in her high heels, her gaze fixed hard on me, and started in with accusations right away. Zhou Linchuan, have you two been together all along? The whole room fell silent in an instant, every pair of eyes turning toward us. Song Jiwei paid no mind to the stares, her eyes blazing with rage. How could you do this to me? Did you betray me even back in our past life? I watched her lose control, my tone cold. Miss Song, by what authority are you questioning me? Who I choose to be with is my own business, none of your concern. You've hounded me time and again, desperate to marry me. Do you already think of yourself as Mrs. Zhou? I'd really like to ask your father how the Song family raises their daughters. My sharp words drained the color from Song Jiwei's face in an instant. She realized she had no right to interrogate me, since we were not yet married in this life. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Is Song Jiwei out of her mind? She's not even married to young Master Zhou, and she's making a scene in public. I heard the Song family's heir has already been decided, that's why she's panicking. I've never seen someone so shameless. Young Master Zhou turned her down and she still won't let go. I wouldn't take her even if she were handed to me for free. Overhearing the gossip, Song Jiwei's face flushed then paled, her fists clenched tight with fury. Just then, a man in a suit hurried through the crowd straight for her. The second Song Jiwei laid eyes on him, her expression shifted drastically. Why are you here? I told you to stay home. It was Jiang Hang. Irritation crossed his face at her rebuke. I'm your man. Am I not even worthy to go out with you? Cut this act and let's head back. Song Jiwei struggled to hold back her anger, warning him in a low voice. Jiang looked utterly wronged and resentful. You came onto me first. You said I could act however I wanted around you. Has it only been this short and you've already fallen out of love? Murmurs swelled all around the guests. Song Jiwei snapped, slapping Jiang Hang hard across the face. Learn your place. Embarrassed, especially with me watching, she didn't linger another second, and stormed off. Jiang Hang chased after her, spouting non-stop apologies. I watched the scene coldly. She'd brought all this on herself. She'd dared to mess around before even securing her position in the Song family. What you sow is what you reap. After that, I skipped every banquet Song Jiwei attended. Fewer and fewer people sent her invitations. Eventually she blocked my car after work. Zhou Linchuan, why won't you marry me? Why? She tried to step close, only to be firmly held back by my bodyguards. Song Jiwei could only speak several paces away, her eyes glistening with tears, looking utterly wronged. Why? You were willing in our past life. What did I do wrong? Did I treat you badly? Weren't we happy together? If you had grievances against me, why never say a word back then? She rambled on, firing question after question, truly unable to grasp why I refused her after rebirth. I watched her with a mocking smile tugging at my lips. Just because I agreed in the last life means I have to agree this time? You seem incapable of understanding plain speech. I've told you countless times I won't marry you because you're not worthy. Can't you see how much I detest you? I don't want to have anything to do with you at all. Song Jiwei's face blanched completely. Her lips twitched as she shook her head wildly. No, it's all because of Jiang Hang, isn't it? I've sent him away. He won't come between us anymore. She stared at me earnestly, full of desperate hope. I've gone this far for you. Won't you forgive me? I swear I'll only love you for the rest of this life, devote myself wholeheartedly to you. Oaths mean nothing to me, I said, looking at her with disgust. Who hasn't sworn vows on their wedding day? How many actually keep them? I never accepted you, yet you act as if sending Jiang Hang away was all for my sake. Did I ask you to? Do I care? Don't frame this as me driving you two apart. You only made that choice out of fear of losing the Zhou family's backing for your own career. This has nothing to do with me. I paused, my tone sharp. Song Jiwei, I want nothing from you, no matter what you do for me. Her face turned livid as she shouted in rage. I know I wronged you before, but I've changed. You forgave me in our past life. Why not this one? Forgive her? How naive she was. I smiled coldly at her. Tell me, Song Jiwei, was the seawater tasty back then? Song Jiwei stared blankly, confused. What do you mean? My smile widened, yet I gave no answer. The next second her eyes flew wide, shock flooding her features. She parted her lips, her voice trembling. I drowned by accident. You were behind it? She pointed a shaking finger at me, her voice shrill. You killed me? I nodded with a faint smile. I forgave you last life, all right, by sending you straight to hell. In an instant, Song Zi looked as if struck by lightning, her features contorted in agony. Her body shook violently, unable to absorb the truth. My smile faded, my voice icy as I spoke to her. You deserved to die back then, Song Jiwei. Do you think I'd marry you in this life? Tears streamed down Song Jiwei's cheeks all at once, all strength draining from her body as she crumpled to the ground with a heavy thud. I looked down at her from above. I didn't spare your lover either. Shortly after you died, I sent him to join you. Am I thoughtful enough? Song Jiwei snapped her head up, her eyes bloodshot. We were husband and wife once. After all, how could you be so cruel? She roared, veins bulging on her face. I only cheated on you. What right did you have to kill me and kill him too? I shrugged casually. I killed them because I wanted to. Song Jiwei fixed me with a gaze overflowing with burning hatred. Zhou Linchuan, you're not human. You're heartless and wicked. She completely lost her mind, scrambling up from the ground and lunging at me with clawed hands, screaming threats. You'll get what's coming to. You'll die a miserable death. My two bodyguards reacted instantly, stepping forward to block her the moment she moved. No matter how wildly she thrashed, struggled, or scratched, she could not draw near me, not even brushing the hem of my coat. Eventually Song Jiwei collapsed on the ground, weeping in despair. Her hair was a mess, her makeup streaked with tears, stripped of all the poise of a wealthy young lady. Zhou Linchuan, I won't let this go, she snarled viciously. I shot a signal to the bodyguards, who stepped forward to seize her arms. Let go of me, let me go. Song Jiwei fought frantically, powerless against the tall, burly guards. I walked slowly over, pinching her jaw hard enough to force her gaze up to mine, the pressure unyielding. You're digging your own grave, Song Jiwei. Ever since you came back, you've hounded me again. And again. I've already issued word that the JO group will cut all ties with the Song group because of you. Starting tomorrow, I'll publicly announce that I'm moving against the Song family. Do you think your useless elder brother will take his anger out on you once he's in full control? Will the rest of the Song family spare you? At my words, every last trace of color drained from her already pale cheeks. Her body trembled uncontrollably, hatred replaced by sheer terror. Without the Zhou family's support, she had nothing left. Her eyes darted about in panic, her tone turning desperate and supplicating. Lin Xuan, please don't do this to me. I know I was wrong. I'll never pester you again. Tears streamed down her face, her voice breaking with sobs. We shared a life as husband and wife once. Have some mercy for our old ties, spare me and the Song family, I beg you. I laughed. Old ties? Song Zhuwei, you're utterly foolish. I killed you in our past life. There were never any old ties between us, we are enemies. Song Zhiwei stared at me blankly, unable to utter a single word, silent tears sliding down her cheeks. I turned away from her pitiful, ridiculous figure and released her jaw, walking toward my car. At the same time, the guards let go of her. The car door shut, cutting off her cries and furious shouts behind me. I did not spare her a single glance. I showed no mercy last life, and I would show even less this one. After that day, Song Zhuwei never dared seek me out again. Word reached me that she was swamped with troubles, barely able to keep herself afloat. One day I was at a hotel preparing to propose to Xia Ranran, when a man in hotel housekeeping uniform, mask and baseball cap pulled low, walked into the private room with his head bowed. Before I could call security, he ripped off his mask and rushed straight to me, dropping heavily to his knees with a loud thud. Young Master Zhou, please save Miss Song. I beg you. His voice was hoarse, his haggard face worn thin. I recognized him at once. Jiang Hang, the lover Song Zhiwei had kept in both lifetimes. He'd snuck into my private room disguised as a hotel cleaner. I looked down at the kneeling man coldly. What reason do I have to save her? We have nothing to do with each other. Jiang Hang's hands clamped tight around my trouser legs, eyes red with urgency as he rambled. Young Master Zhou, Miss Song sent me to find you. You have no idea, her elder brother has taken full control of the Song group now. And the company's hit a catastrophic crisis, its capital chain completely broken, on the verge of bankruptcy. He spoke at a frantic pace, every word earnest. President Song is forcing Miss Song to marry a wealthy businessman in his 50s to save the company, trying to trade her marriage for a huge capital injection. Miss Song has nowhere else to turn. Only you can help her. She said she begs you for old time's sake to give her a hand. After hearing this, a cold smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth, my tone mocking. The Song family ended up like this entirely because of me. Why on earth would I help Song Zhuwei? She's far too naive. Go back and tell her to pray she gets lucky. That's all she's got. Jiang Hang froze on the spot, his face etched with disbelief. It was you? You did this to Miss Song. He scrambled to his feet, pulled a sharp fruit knife from his waist, and with a vicious glint in his eyes lunged sideways toward the unsuspecting Xia Ranran. Xia Ranran didn't panic in the slightest. The second he lunged at her with the knife, she moved with crisp precision, landing a sharp sidekick square on his wrist. There was a sharp clatter. The knife flew out of his hand and clattered to the floor. Before Jiang Hang could react, she stepped forward, grabbed his shoulder and used his own momentum against him, flipping him clean over her shoulder. He let out a pained grunt. Jiang Hang lay flat on his back, his face twisted in agony. He tried to get up, but I planted my foot hard on his chest, contorting his face with pain. Suddenly he clutched his head in agony. Seconds later he lifted his head to look at me, the anger in his eyes shifting abruptly. First came blank confusion, his pupils trembling slightly as if he were seeing something impossible. A moment later his gaze held nothing but terror and searing hatred. He stared wide-eyed at my face. Zhou Linchuan, it was you. All of it was you. You ruined my life. I'll never let you get away with this. I'll kill you. Looking at his expression, I suddenly smiled. Jiang Hang, you were reborn too? Jiang Hang's pupils constricted sharply. I shook my head, my smile widening. What a shame you came back at the wrong time. In your last life, you died by my hand. Did you think living again would change the ending? Let me tell you it won't. In this life, your fate will be exactly the same. Just then my bodyguard stepped in. Sir? All the blood drained from Jiang Hang's face in an instant. Probably remembering how horribly he'd died last time, he begged in terror. I was wrong. Young Master Zhou, I was wrong. Please spare me. I'll never dare do this again. I never should have come to you. I'll disappear from your life forever, I swear. Please spare my life. I couldn't be bothered to look at him a second longer. I waved a hand and the bodyguard stepped forward at once, dragging away the terrified, pleading Jiang Hang. Silence fell over the room again. I turned to face Xia Ronron. I walked slowly to her, dropped to one knee, and pulled out the velvet ring box I'd prepared, opening it slowly. Ren Ren, will you marry me? Will you be Mrs. Zhou? Tears welled up in Xia Ronron's eyes at once. She nodded hard, her voice thick with tears. I will. This story warns us never to take others' affection and tolerance for granted, nor to betray loyalty or take opportunistic shortcuts in intimate relationships. After her rebirth, Song Jue took her ex-husband's past love for granted, assuming she could easily replicate a wealthy marriage. While clinging to the Zhou family's influence to seize business power, she secretly kept a lover. She mistook others' platform for her own ability and tolerance for indulgence, ultimately ending up with a ruined reputation, a declining family, and nowhere to turn. In contrast, the male protagonist always adheres to his principles, sees through people's true character, ejects empty scheming, and chooses a sincere and grateful partner, finally gaining stability and happiness. There are no shortcuts in life or relationships. Loyalty is the cornerstone of intimate bonds, and character is the foundation of a life well lived. Everything gained through manipulation will eventually collapse. Only with sincerity and moral integrity can one achieve lasting happiness.